Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week and get a £10 free bet the next week. Paddy Power, you beauty! Max £10 bonus per person per week. Excludes shop bets. Selected odds. Conditions and exclusions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Right, hello and welcome to this Sunday Postcast. I'm Maddie Plough and I'm joined by Racing Post colleagues Ed Quigley and Nick Watts, and we've also got Frank Hickey on the line as well. It's going to be a fabulous New Year's Day at Cheltenham. We're going to look ahead to that. We're also going to look at Leopardstown, a look back on the disappointment of Forheen, of course, the rearranged Choral Welsh National, which I know Ed will be delighted to talk about. And of course, there's another chance for you to win a free £25 or €25 bet from Paddy Power. But first, we're going to get straight into Cheltenham, which is where most people want to be, I'm sure. And first off is the BetBright Dipper Novices Chase at 125. I think this looks a really good race considering there's not many runners. Frank, take us away with the betting, please.
Yeah, Willoughby Court is 5-4 favourite. Yanworth 7-4. Ballyandy 5-1. Sight in Tennessee 9-1. And Ami Dubois is 16-1.
Right, Frank, we'll kick off with you then. Obviously, Willoughby Court now has a £5 penalty and he's re-opposing Yanworth. Whose side would you be on, or would you be looking at something else?
Oh, it's very tough. Like, I think Yanworth's jumping hasn't been brilliant. Now, he still was only beaten about slightly over 3 lengths the last day, staying on strongly at the finish. Now, I do think the key to this race potentially could be the heavy ground. Like, Willoughby Court is one in soft at Warwick. But this proper heavy, it's hard to get that race when Yanworth absolutely hacked up in the Neptune trial on heavy ground out of your head. I think it might actually might suit him. Getting the £5 as well in the stiffer finish here, I never thought I'd be saying this, but you know something, I might actually chance Yanworth here. Now, Ballyandy is interesting coming back from a break. He should handle the ground, the trip as well. He should be okay. He'd probably done most of his running over 2 miles, but it's an intriguing race. I'd probably just side with Yanworth, but it's not with great confidence, and I never thought I'd be saying that, considering how he's come so far. But I think with the ground and the £5 and the stiffer finish, I think he might play to his strengths, and I'd probably side with him. Low confidence, though.
Ami Dubois is another one who's clearly going to love the ground. And we're talking before, Ed, about how Ballyandy's really interesting coming back off this layoff. What do you make of his chance?
Yeah, it's a muddling little race, this, isn't it? Ballyandy obviously had a little setback after his win back in September. I can't remember exactly what it was, some kind of problem with his leg. But yeah, reportedly scored well the other day. It was good form at the track. Ground won't be an issue. I find it a little bit an intriguing little race. I kind of see what Frank's saying with Yanworth, but he's just a horse who drives me mad. I think ever since I backed it 20-1 with the Champion Hurdle, when he ran like his legs were tied together, going off 7-4, I've kind of had a vendetta against him, I think. So it's probably more my error than anyone else's. But with the £5 he's getting from him on soft ground, I could see why he could reverse the form Willoughby Court. But I actually kind of feel Willoughby Court was better value than the 3 lengths. I get a feeling that as he would have pulled some more out if Yanworth had come alongside him. So yeah, it's a race I'm finding very hard to have a kind of a clear angle in. The one I do think is overpriced here though is Ami Dubois, who isn't as illustrious or doesn't have as an illustrious profile over hurdles as the likes of Willoughby Court or Yanworth. But Graham McPherson gone on record this week saying, look, the more rain, the merrier for this horse. He's got his ground. He'll run through mud. He'll run through treacle all day long. And whilst, yeah, probably, I think it's fair to say, doesn't quite have the class of some of the other two, ground can often be a leveller. So to make him 16-1 outsider of 5, I think it probably underestimates his chances. But yeah, it's a tricky old race. I don't know if Nick's got a clear angle in on this.
I couldn't have put it better myself, Ted, to be honest with you. I completely agree with you about Ami Dubois. I think if it was trained by someone other than Graham McPherson, he'd be half the price. He's got off to a brilliant start with fences, 2 from 2. He loves heavy ground. He wasn't far away in the Albert Bartlett last season. He ran a good race in that. He's a good horse. And, you know, as Ted said, when you get ground this heavy, as we saw at Newbury yesterday, it can be a real leveller, and class can go out the window to an extent. That said, I could see him running really well. I still make it between the big two, and I'd still side with Willoughby Court just about, because I thought he was much more fluent at Newbury last time out. He put pressure on Yanworth's jumping, and the soft ground might help Yanworth in that respect. But I just think he'll get Yanworth going again. I think Yanworth wants 3 miles. I think that would suit him better. It'd just allow him longer and more time to get into the race. And I could see Willoughby Court putting him under real pressure, and Yanworth just maybe hitting 1 or 2. I think he will get there over fences, but he hasn't been an immediate hit, and it might take him a bit longer before we see the best of him. So I'd go for Willoughby, but big run, I think, from Ami Dubois on the cards.
I think a lot of this could be to do with the pace, couldn't it? I mean, Willoughby Court and Ami Dubois have both been quite prominent races in the past, and if they get in a rhythm out ahead in Cheltenham, we know it's really hard to make up ground on that ground as well. So perhaps that could be a little bit of a chink in the armour of Yanworth if he gets far back and his jumping doesn't quite stand the test. What do we reckon?
Yeah, possibly. It could be the case. There could be a lot of pace on here. I mean, I don't think Ballyandy will want to hang around either.
No.
He's often ridden quite, well, I think will be ridden quite promptly. So, yeah, I think Willoughby Court's the most likely winner, but I do think Ami Dubois, when I priced this race up myself, I had him single figures. So, by that logic, it's 16, 14 to 1 or whatever, I should be backing him. I do think the market probably is overlooking him to some extent. The
other thing about Yanworth, if he does get well beaten tomorrow, might they think about the stayers hurdle for him, bring back over hurdles?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Harry's getting on in years now. It would give JP quite a big weapon in that race.
I've heard some people mention that before as well. Frank, what price is he, just out of interest? Have you got a price on him for the stayers hurdle?
Give me 1 second there, and you've landed on me very quickly. But I'll see.
No worries. I'm my bad for doing that.
We're 16 to 1.
16 to 1. So perhaps, yeah, I can see your angle there. Moving on now to the 2 o'clock bet right. Best for festival betting handicap chase. That's the Grade 3. Shantu Flyer won it last year, I believe. He's back again. We've also got the likes of Top Gamble and a few others who are used to running around here. Frank, how do we bet?
Yeah, we've joint favourite. Salmon Tegal and Burton's Well are both 4 to 1. Top Gamble 9 to 2. Ballyhill 5 to 1. The Enval 15 to 2, and we're 8 to 1 bar.
Right, okay. Nick, I'll go to you first. You can kick us off with this one. Who would your selection be?
I've only had a very brief look at this before we came on air, but again, it goes back to the ground for me. Very similar ground to when Splasher Ginge won in November on heavy, where he beat Starkitect, obviously, the ill-fated Starkitect. And yeah, I mean, he was a bit disappointing last time. And I think they did have him in the Welsh National as well, didn't they? I think this race will suit him a hell of a lot better. I don't think he's a confirmed stayer at kind of Welsh National trips, but I think round Cheltenham on heavy ground, he's only up £5 for that win in November. He's just a horse that you can always underestimate, and he can surprise you. I was on Starkitect that day in November, and I thought he had it won with just Splasher Ginge to get past in the home straight. Couldn't do it. So I think it's dangerous to write him off again, and I think he's a decent price.
I think the reason they had him in the Welsh National is probably because they've always had that Grand National dream, haven't they? So they want to try him again at those marathon trips, but he's clearly very at home over this trip. Ed, anything to add?
Worryingly in agreement with Watsy here. I do think
blimey.
Never happens, but no, Splash of Ginge, he didn't really get he couldn't really dictate matters in the second half of the race last time out. And the ground was a bit quicker in the December Gold Cup than what he'll be facing here, and only 10 stone 11 on his back. He's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but he's a very effective one-trick pony. Give him 2.5 miles, Cheltenham and bottomless ground, and he just seems to thrive on it. So I think Splash of Ginge, again, is overpriced. It's only £5 higher. The really interesting one in here, you mentioned before we came on air, Maddie, is Visconti de Noia, who the wheels look like they've come off recently, but it's now starting to look dangerously well handicapped. Stays over 3 miles, which in this ground, stamina's not going to be an issue. I could see that one running well. I think he's priced up as outsider of the field. Again, I could see him running a big race. But no, I think Splash of Ginge is a fair price here. And with the 9 runners, hopefully it doesn't cut up to 7. I think you're getting a fair each way shout with him.
Yeah, I am a big fan of Visconti de Noia. I think he's got that form on this ground and over longer trips as well. But he just needs to put it together. He's been a bit frustrating. Frank, who's your selection?
Yeah, I thought that Burton's Well was very interesting. He's very lightly raced for. He'll be 9 tomorrow. He's only had 8 runs ever. This being his 9th run. You can look back at some of his form. His handicap debut last November, he was beaten 7 lengths by Waiting Patiently. Waiting Patiently was running off a mark of 123. And as we know now, he was absolutely chucked in that day. He's also won heavy ground with Utoxter, and we know he can get really, really testing there. He fell at the festival for the novice handicap when he was only 8 to 1. And at Stratford on his reappearance in October, on good soft ground, he was only beaten a neck by Romanda Sanam, who was very much well in under a penalty that day. Romanda Sanam ran off a £6 higher mark in both the Beth Victor Gold Cup and Caspian Caviar Gold Cup, and was 5th in both. He ran creditably. I think there's more to come. Venetia had a few winners at Haydock in the past couple of days. Heavy ground's no issue. I think he'll run a big race.
Yeah, Venetia, she's not sort of had that massive amount of winners we're perhaps used to seeing her have when the ground gets heavy, but she is hitting form now, as you're saying. Burtonswell, very interesting horse indeed. We'll move on now to the 2:35 Bet-Bright Casino Handicap Hurdle. Frank, how did they bet in this one?
Red Rising's 3-1, Arthur's Gift 7-2, Love Nor Money 9-2, Boyhood 7-1, Skip the Cuddles 15-2, Supreme Steel 8-1, and we're 11-1 bar.
Okay, Nick, so Red Rising looks one with a really interesting profile here. I'm sure many punters are going to be latching onto him. Is he the one you'd be in favour of?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is a much harder task than his previous win, you'd say. So he will have to prove up to it. And he's more kind of hype than substance at the moment compared to a horse like Arthur's Gift. But I do think he's got quite a lot of potential as a stayer, particularly on this kind of ground. He's won his point on heavy going. So I don't think the issue will be, the ground will be an issue for him whatsoever. And just looking at him, I've watched his last two races quite closely. I think he won at Southwell last time. He just doesn't look to do anything very quickly at all. He's a real stayer. He probably wants this type of surface, and I could see him grinding it out. 3 miles around Cheltenham on this kind of heavy ground. It's going to be grueling, and I think he's just one of those peculiar horses that likes this kind of test. And yeah, I could see him going very well.
Okay, you mentioned Arthur's Gift, who of course won over this track last time for Nigel Twiston-Davies. Tom Humphries again on board. Ed, any strong opinion?
No, I'm sitting out this race. I'm going to go and make a prawn cocktail or something. That will be not for me.
Prawn cocktail, very upmarket.
Right, New Year's, you've got to at some point, haven't you?
Frank, tell us which one you'll be getting stuck into in this race.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a race where I'd be having the rent money on, but Love Nor Money fun. That ran well at Chepstow last time. He handled the heavy ground. He went out in front and he could be taken on by Red Rising in front. If that's the case, it might detract from his chances. But I think he should improve form the last time. And he was well backed as well, considering he'd been relatively disappointing on his comeback at Foss. But I think I couldn't see him being overly strong early in the market. He might drift out to maybe a little bit bigger than he is now. If he hits like the 11-2, 6-1 mark, I might just have a few quid each way in him.
Okay, moving on to the second grade 2 of the day, the 3:10 Dawn and Engineering Railkeel Hurdle. We've got Agrapart in here, who of course was so agonisingly beating Lammy Surge in it last year. And then we've got Old Guard, Holstone. Raven Black's an interesting one. He's of course stepping up in trip. We're used to seeing him over 2 miles. And Royal Vacation after being pulled up in the Ladbrokes Trophy. And Colin's sister for the informed Fergal O'Brien as well. How do they bet on this one, Frank?
Yeah, Old Guard 9-4. Oh, actually, Colin's sister 2-1. Old Guard 9-4. Holstone 11-4. Agrapart 13-2. Royal Vacation 16-1. And we're 33-1 bar.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks. Ed, take it away. Hopefully you've got a strong opinion on this one.
I've got an opinion, yeah. I mean, Agrapart is interesting, but clearly the wheels have kind of come off in recent times. But no problem with the ground. Obviously, he won this race last year. Colin's sister, you have to respect. I think probably didn't run to its best last time out at Newbury, and on its form on its penultimate run at Wetherby, clearly banged there. I'm probably, by process of elimination more than anything, I'm going to go with Holstone. I think they're between a rock and a hard place of this horse. He's not quite up to the top level over hurdles, and two things of him. I think they were thinking about going chasing, but I saw him in the paddock at Wetherby that day, and he looked like a flat horse compared to some of the others in there. He's not the biggest in terms of his physique, and I know that's not always the be-all and end-all. We look at the likes of Top Notch, your small little things, and they get from A to B fine. But I think that's kind of almost made them a little bit reluctant to go chasing with him. And as a consequence, they're kind of banging their head against the wall where to place him over hurdles. And also with Holstone, I'm not totally convinced he gets 3 miles at the top level. I think 2.5 on testing ground will probably suit him a lot more. I think he's a kind of an extended 2 mile, 6 furlong horse, if that makes any kind of sense. And I think here he's got form over course and distance. He's got to have no problem at all with this ground. Officially rated 155. He's got a lot going for him, and I think this is the kind of race Holstone will be able to cash in on.
Okay, so you reckon he can reverse the form with Colin's sister?
Yeah, I do. I think back at this track, on this ground, I think, yeah, there'll be a lot, won't be much between them. I do think this is the race for Holstone, though.
Okay, Watsy?
I really like Agrapart.
Go on, Watson.
Ted mentioned Agrapart earlier, and you go back a year and he was beating Lammy Surge up the running. That's good form. Lammy Surge has come out and won a Grade 1 in France since then, and ran a very good race in the long walk. I certainly wouldn't put anyone off still being interested in him for Cheltenham. But
you're not worried about his recent form?
Slightly, but it's interesting. Lizzie Kelly was on the not the morning line, the opening show a few weeks ago on Long Walk Hurdle Day when I think Agrapart was due to run. Now she said it's touch and go whether he does because they didn't know if it was soft enough for it. In the end, it didn't run. No, it wasn't testing at Ascot, but it was certainly on the soft side. So it kind of indicates that Agripart, a bit like Mulcahy's Hill yesterday, needs it kind of unraceable. I think it was soft when he beat Lammy Surge last year. It's going to be heavier than that tomorrow. Yeah, and there are question marks a little bit about the form, but if they had him ready for the long walk, then presumably he's ready and fit and raring to go if they were willing to give him a chance in that. So, you know, I think if he can, I don't think it's beyond the realms of imagination that he can come back to the form of a year ago, and if he does, then that puts him in with every chance. So, matching the horse to the going, I've come up with Agripart.
Yeah, previous Betfair hurdle winner as well. He tore apart the field that day, didn't he? So, yeah, there's a case to be made for Agripart. Frank, what do you reckon of this? Like Ed's touched upon, quite a few of them are between sort of handicap and graded company, and it looks sort of who's just going to cope with conditions best, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I would think. Like, if you're to add to the Agripart argument, Nick Williamson flying for him. His last 8 runners, 4 of 1. He had one falling, 3 out when close up at Newbury. T for 3 then was 3rd in the King George, and he had another one 2nd, and that's out of his last 8 runners. So he's banging form. So you could definitely give a big chance to Agripart if he does come back to form. And you think with the yard in form like that, if he's going to bounce back, it will be tomorrow. But I'm actually with Ed here. I think Holdstone, he's just not quite a grade 1 horse, and I don't think he quite gets the 3 miles. But he loves Cheltenham. He's 3 from 5 with a 2nd in Time Peregrine Run, and obviously he's 3rd in the Albert Bartlett. So he does go well here. He'll handle the ground. This trip, is, in my opinion, is ideal for him. And I think if he's going to win a decent race, tomorrow will be the day.
Okay, so 2 votes for Holston and 1 for Agripart. Before we move on to covering a bit at Musselburgh, has anyone got any other fancies at Cheltenham? I'll go to you first, Frank.
Yeah, just one I thought potentially could be a half-decent price. In the 12.15, the listed novices hurdle, Tickenbar was very impressive in his hurdles debut at Plumpton, where he beat Landon, who'd run in Grade 1s at Grade 1 juvenile race at Cheltenham and Aintree last year. That horse is rated about 120, but Tickenbar didn't come off the bridle, beat him. Now, he was well beaten the Aintree bumper last year, but he looks a horse that'll thrive over further, so this ground actually should play to his stamina. And I think the likes of Springtown Late, was 2nd behind on the blind side at Sandown, and Chia, and 1 for the road, Tom, in the race. You should be able to get a decent each-way price. And if he's 7 or 8 to 1, I'd probably have a decent each-way bet on him.
Okay, Tickenbar for Frank. Ed?
In the 12.50, this is the easiest race Vita de Rock's run in for about 19 years. I mean, Southfield Theatre will hate the ground. Lamocod, the race was reopened. They've just basically thrown him in here to jump around and pick up the 5th place prize money. He'll hate the ground. Roos Blanc's nearly 12. And I think Ballymalley didn't that refuge last time out. So if Vita de Rock can show any of the kind of form it was showing last season, he should cash in here with ground fine. He's got previous winning form at the track. Ran well in a Neptune 2 or 3 years ago here. If he doesn't win this today, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Mr. Simon here and Isaac Swade got rid of him, to be honest with you, because yeah, I'll be cheering on the boys in green tomorrow with Holstone and Vita de Rock. Well,
they're certainly having an amazing season, so I don't think you can go far wrong with that selection. Watsy?
I'd just add to the 12.15, I think Ain Cheer is a very interesting horse. Colin Tizard's had a few reverses, hasn't he, lately? Hasn't all gone his way. Slate House beaten, didn't win the King George. I think Ain Cheer is a really promising horse. That could be his next kind of big thing. So I'm hoping for good things from him tomorrow anyway.
Okay, excellent. Now, before the break, here's your chance to win the £25 or €25 free bet from Paddy Power. Simply tweet your answer to this question using the hashtag Postcast. Who won Friday's Ryanair hurdle at Leopardstown? We'll announce the winner on Friday's show. The free bet will be credited to your Paddy Power account.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week and get a £10 free bet the next week. Paddy Power, you beauty! Max £10 bonus per person per week. Excludes shop bets. Selected odds. Conditions and exclusions apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, welcome back to this Sunday Postcast. We're going to go to Musselburgh now, of all places. The 140 Tote Quad Pot Old Reekie Handicap Chase. Hope I pronounced that right. Frank, have you got a strong opinion on this race, and can we have some betting if you have it, please?
Oh, we don't have betting up at Musselburgh just yet, Maddie.
Okay.
And I most definitely don't have a strong opinion when it comes to the Musselburgh card tomorrow. But yeah, as a token offering, Knockgraffin has a second start for Andy Murphy. He wasn't disgraced at Cheltenham over 2 miles the last day behind Gino Trail. It looked there that the step up and trip is what he's looking for, and I think actually the better ground here as well will be in his favour. Brian Hughes is booked, and I'm a massive fan of Brian Hughes. I think he's a brilliant jockey, and it just points to him perhaps getting back to some of his earlier form from a season or so ago. So he'd be a token section for me.
Okay, so not Gruff and perhaps you might have a bit of a class edge on some of these. I know Nick hasn't got a strong opinion, so I'll go to you, Ed.
I quite like Max Ward in this, off top weight. Really, I need the rain north of the border to stay away. I think it's currently good to soft at the moment, which should be fine for him. You wouldn't want it to become too testing, but I think he looked to be carrying plenty of condition last time out. I think he really needed the run. I think he should strip a lot fitter from this. Questions whether he can do it off a marker 145, but again, Tom George taking the long trek north, Adrian Hesking. I think they've got 2 on the card. And again, on paper, this looks a bit of an easier contest than some of those he's been tackling with the run under his belt on what shouldn't be too soft a ground. I think he's got a lot going for him. So yeah, Max Ward would be my selection in the 140.
Okay, we'll swiftly move on to the 2:15 Racing Topol Hogmanay Handicap Hurdle. Silver Concorde's going to be the one for a lot of people here. He's 2 from 2 since joining Keith Dalglish. He was hard to win with in Ireland, but as a 10-year-old now, he seems to have finally regained the winning thread. What's he, Silver Concorde for you or something else?
No, you took the words right out of my mouth. He's a horse I love because he did me a big favour when he won the Champion Bumper a few seasons ago. And weirdly, since then, he hadn't won since until he'd moved to Keith Dalglish's yard. And I think it's more a case, I think he's always been a horse with a lot of ability, but I don't think Irish winters really suit him because he's a real flatbred horse. He's by Dan Silly. And he likes the good ground, and so I wish he'd gone to Scotland a few years ago because Musselburgh always seems to get fairly decent going, and he's gone up there twice now with Keith Dalglish. I think he's done the sensible thing, actually. He's been winning easy races, soft races, but he's been getting his confidence up, which he must have needed a little bit. So he's been going off long odds on and kind of doing the business. And he's been looking good, and his confidence should be up now, and this seems like a logical stepping stone for me. And they've kind of got Cheltenham ambitions, I think, for later in the year in one of the handicaps there. So I'd hope that he'd go very close and can bring up a course hat-trick, and I hope he does, because I think Keith Dalglish has actually handled him really well.
I mean, if you look at this race and you say, oh, there's a Champion Bumper winner in there, it's kind of hard to oppose him, isn't it, a bit, if he can show that class. Ed, can you oppose him?
Possibly. I'm sitting this one out, or I don't know, I'll go put some vol au vents in the oven or something at this point.
Something else after the prawn cocktail's been devoured.
Oh, we should get round his house tomorrow. Yeah. He's doing a nice spread for everyone.
I'm working tomorrow, so I'm working from home. Yeah, no, I'm leaving this one alone. Yeah, it's great to see Silver Concorde at least get his head in front, isn't it, after horse that promised so much. He's kind of making hay in his twilight years, but yeah, it'd be good to see him going again.
Okay, Frank, have the final say.
Yeah, I'd agree with what Nick said there regarding Silver Concorde. He seemed to be revitalised for the switches Keith Dalglish. And while they weren't very strong races, his confidence could be up. Like, it wasn't like he was running badly in Ireland. He was just bumping into some decent horses. Like, you know, there's races in there like beaten by Cracking Smart, who's a very good young hurdler. And they also have Brian Hughes booked, which I think is a massive plus. Now, the danger to me would be Dear Sire. Don McLean's yard is absolutely bombing. He's really turned things around there, and you have to respect everything. But I think Silver Concorde, even though he's a 10-year-old, can still progress beyond the mark of 133 in his bumper form.
Yeah, okay, so most of us are in agreement there. Has anyone got anything else at Musselburgh or on New Year's Day without giving away your nap? We've got racing at Tremor, Southall, Fairyhouse, Catterick, Exeter and Fakenham. So plenty to choose from. Frank?
I have Fairyhouse, 12.55. You might get a little bit of an each way price here on Sassy Diva. She travelled really well the last time at Navan, but she walloped the third last, and her stamina didn't seem to be there for the 2.5 mile trip. She drops 2 furlongs in trip here, and while on the form book it looks like she's all to do with Martello Park to turn the form around, I think the drop in trip will play to her strengths. Sutton Place goes over fences in the 240. I know Gordon has a massive opinion of this horse. He won't be a betting proposition, but it'll be well worth watching for the season ahead. And I think that's about it for me, actually. That's it.
Okay, Watsy?
What I've said already, that'll do me. That's enough for one day. So I haven't got any of the gaffs, which I normally do, but not on this occasion. I'm sticking to Cheltenham and Musselburgh.
He's keeping his powder dry, probably.
I'm going for vol au vents around Ted's house.
I think we all should.
If I can get the oven on, yeah.
Yeah. Right, to pay for your catering services that you're clearly going to give us all tomorrow.
Wish I'd never opened my mouth now, but I'm eating toast and jam. In the Open at Musselburgh, not a bet for tomorrow, but Je Suis Charlie, I think is really interesting. Could be make up in something like a Fred Winter type The Yard have won this, I think, twice in the last 3 or 4 years. Travelled really well last time out in a hot race to Grade 2, won by a horse that looks really good, probably going to the Triumph.
We Have a Dream, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's definitely one to keep. John Quinn, I think, shrewd trainer, definitely one just to keep in the notebooks with the spring in mind. Now, I've had a bet down at Exeter. Well, I will have a bet down at Exeter. Solemn Grundy of Narmer Holland, I think it runs in the 2:25. This horse wasn't beaten far at all at Wetherby last time out, gets in off the same mark. He loves soft ground. By all accounts, it's like an Amazonian swamp down there in Exeter, so I think he's got conditions right for him. So yeah, Solemn Grundy on the Exeter card in 2:25, quite a lot to look off. Okay,
excellent. Now, we're looking forward to your New Year's Day nap.
This will not be beaten.
Heard a groan from Ed there, so I'm going to go elsewhere first. What's your New Year's Day nap?
I'm going to go with Agripart to repeat last year's win.
Okay, you'd probably get a pretty good price on that, maybe. Frank?
105 Musselburgh, Crestwell Legends looked a decent novice hurler. Won at Ludlow first time out, beating Magic Dancer, who wasn't disgraced in the racing welfare handicap at Ascot. That won its next 2 before that Ascot race. It followed up at Ludlow over a bit further, and Kim Bailey in the last 5 years has only sent 1 runner up to Musselburgh and a 1. So I'm hoping it'll be 2 from 2 tomorrow.
Okay, hoping for 2 for 2. And Ed, finally?
I'm going to take what's on. I'm going for Holstone in the Real Gill Hurdle, and so the winner can buy loser can buy the Volavants, put it that way.
Yeah, nicely done. We'll be back in a moment to discuss all things Faheen and Leopardstown on Friday.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week and get a £10 free bet the next week. Paddy Power, you beauty! Max £10 bonus per person per week. Excludes shop bets. Selected odds. Conditions and exclusions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to this Sunday Postcast. Now, I don't think I've known as dramatic series of high-profile defeats than we've had this week. It's been absolutely unbelievable. You've not had a minute's peace from it. Of course, we've got to mention Faheen. He couldn't put his best foot forward. I'm not sure if they found anything in particular to contribute to his disappointing performance where he's pulled up at Leopardstown on Friday, but I'm sure Willie Mullins and his vets will be having a good old look at him. Strengthens Bouvardaire's case for the race. Now, first off, has anyone got any sort of theories on why he was so disappointing? I know a lot of people believe in this sort of bounce factor, but he clearly just, you can't take that performance on face value at all, can you, Frank?
Well, if you
Ed, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, if you go on Twitter, you'll find all kinds of funny theories, won't you, about guys in the Middle East place laying it and stuff. And, look, maybe the horse just doesn't want to do it anymore. Look, he's 10 years of age. And at some point, all greats do decline. I mean, it was sad to see, wasn't it? We all wanted to see him get round, but there appears to be no immediate obvious excuse. Almost without, for want of a better phrase, you almost wanted there to be a problem with him. So at least that kind of gave us a reason why he should come back. But it appears they've kind of given him a clean bill of health. They're saying they hope to go again with him, but yeah, you've definitely got to worry if you're a Faheen fan now, and he's the horse I cannot, for the life of me, have on my mind with the Cheltenham Festival approaching. Yeah,
I think Rich Ritchie said after the race, I'm not sure if it's been made official yet, but he sort of said that's it. We're not, he doesn't owe anyone anything. It was bizarre though, wasn't it? Because he was so impressive on his return in the Morgiana. So impressive and dominant.
Was.
And it was like the old Faheen was back. So what was your analysis?
Yeah, I think the writing was on the wall for him when you saw him being taken on and being led by Stilios Emery. I think, in his prime, if he was at his best, he would have just put that field to the sword. He would have jumped off in front. They would never have seen him again. So as soon as he was kind of not getting away from the others, as soon as he kind of got headed, you think, something's not right here. And yeah, he just capitulated really quickly. He got chewed up and spat out the back, and he was pulled up. And they said since, there's nothing wrong with him. It's a bit like Sizing John in that respect. They've come back post-race normal, whatever that means. So they can't find anything
overheated,
on
did
him.
he, Sizing John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Sizing John was abnormal. Was it York Hill, the one that was normal? Another one was...
Sizing John was, by the vets, was clinically abnormal.
That's the one, yeah.
There's been so much of that last week. I'm getting confused.
Faheen, they appear to be just at loss to what I believe,
But I think nobody in their right mind could consider Faheen for the champion hurdle at the moment. You need to see another performance from him. They talked about maybe going to that Champions Weekend, the new initiative that is being put on in February, and him going there. You need to see a positive performance from him before you even contemplate looking at him for Cheltenham. It's Bouvardaire's to lose, and the way it's going, My Tent or Yours will come in second again, won't he, as an 11-year-old?
4 years in a row for My Tent or Yours, second in the champion
hurdle. Will they consider bringing York Hill back to 2 miles and hurdles?
That's the big conundrum, isn't it? I was going to say, I mean, a lot of people in the Racing Post office were sort of Team Bouvardere before Faheen even put up that performance, so that would strengthen his case. But if we do put Yorkhill into the mix, then that's going to be a cracker. I know people like Kevin Blake are saying that, you know, he always should have been campaigned over hurdles and over 2 miles. He's just so speedy and classy, so perhaps that's the way to go after he disappointed. Frank, we'll go to you. What was your analysis of the whole Faheen situation and now the champion hurdle market? Can we get some betting on that as well?
Well, I'll give you the champion hurdle betting first. Bouvardere is 1-2. Faheen and Yorkhill are both 6-1. Mellon 8-1. By 10 to yours 10-1. Def Desai 16-1, and we're 20-1 bar. I like Faheen. I'd be a little bit of a cynic, and there was some unusual activity on the Betfair exchanges a couple of weeks back when Faheen went quite weak and Bouvardere strengthened up, and you just get the feeling something must have happened at home to lead to that activity. You know, whether it was a bad piece of work or something, like he could just have bounced, but you do always worry when a horse has been off the track for so long, comes back, wins a race that probably wasn't the strongest the last day, and does that. It's very hard to see him come back. Like, he might come back and run, but I don't think we'll ever see Faheen at the levels he was before the injury. And this champion hurdle looks Bouvardere's for the taking, unless they do switch Yorkhill back to hurdles. Now, it's a case of whether Yorkhill will go the 2 mile chase route, the 2 mile hurdle route. With Min being a little bit disappointing at Leopardstown over 2 miles as well, there is the possibility he might go the champion chase route. But it's quite fascinating. But Bouvardere, he's been nothing but impressive the last 2 seasons, and he's most definitely the one to beat.
Okay, Bouvardere, obviously the one to beat. Now, we're going to move on to your Christmas eye catchers. Nick, I'll go to you first.
God, Christmas eye catchers, there's been so much to choose from. It's hard to you know, remember it all.
Do you want me to give you a minute?
I think I mentioned Fountain's Windfall on the Postcast a few days ago. I thought he would have won at Kempton on Boxing Day had he stood up, and it wasn't a serious mistake he made. It was a bit unfortunate, I thought, that he came to grief, and I wouldn't give up on him over fences. He might have 2 Fs next to his name, but if he could just get in a bit of practice at home, I still think in the spring he could be a real tool. You saw what he did at Aintree last season.
You say they're going to go for a really small event and just try and get him round for confidence.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me, but I certainly wouldn't be giving up on him.
No, over fences, I still think he's got more to give. A lot of people, I think, when they have some, you know, he's been very unfortunate, like you say. And
he's a horse who actually jumps well until he makes the mistake. As opposed to a poor jumper who then, you see what I'm saying, when he gets it right, he does look very good. So, yeah, I wouldn't give up.
And also, I'll just give a quick word. We mentioned Willie Mullins, who's very in and out over Christmas at Leopardstown. So the performance of Min, although it looked really bad at the time, and of course he got disqualified and thrown out, we could actually maybe mark that up a little bit. If the stable has been under par and suffering a little bit, I think, you know, in the next few runs is the time to judge Min. And Let's Dance, who won easily. Again, if you can mark that up, you know, she actually performed very well, and she's interesting for me for the Mayor's Hurdle. I think she could give Apple's Jade a race if they both ran. Yeah,
she seems to like the good ground as well that you get. On Min as well, I think you can't say he ran his race there, surely, can you?
I don't think he did.
I don't think so at all.
Nowhere near.
No.
But, you know, we'll find out in the next couple of months.
He does over-race in the early stages a lot, Min. I think he's often very keen, and I do wonder where he's expending a bit too much energy in the early stages, but chat for another day, I suppose.
Yeah, eye catcher for you?
A couple, blow my own trumpet, but Annabelle Fly was a nice winner for the last podcast. And I believe his Irish marks are up to 159 now. So, I mean, he just routed the opposition in that big Paddy Power handicap. And they're going to have to start thinking about graded races. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they try the synchronised route and throw him in the like the Irish Hennessy and then start thinking about potentially something like a Gold Cup if the ground was on the soft side. Because on official ratings, he's only got £8-9 to fine with Size John, who's a Gold Cup winner. So it's that kind of crazy 3 mile chase division this year. I think Paul Keeley summed it up well the other day. He said, if you had any kind of horse rated around 160, I'd just be running it in the Gold Cup because you never know what could happen. But as an actual eye catcher, I can't even really remember the horse's name exactly, but it was the Jessica Harrington horse in the bumper by the late Alan and Ann Potts. I think it was called Whisper in the Breeze.
Yes, I think you got that right.
Absolutely, horse pulled the jockey's arms out off a really slow pace for the first circuit. Definitely one that's gone into my notebook. When he gets a good gallop to run out, I mean, I'm not suggesting something like the Champion Bumper, but if he went up in class into a really good bumper where they go an end-to-end gallop, I could see him running an absolute stormer, and his finishing position kind of masks he's kind of a residual class and ability, I think. So he's definitely one I've stuck a horse tracker with next time out in mind.
Okay, brilliant. Frank, Christmas eye catcher?
Yeah, I've a few. First, in the Pretems qualifier, Leopardstown, there was a monumental performance and defeat from a Grade Few. He must have been 20, 25 lengths off the lead turning in and absolutely flew home to be beaten a short head by mine now. Now his rating, he'll need to get his rating up a bit. He's only rated 126, and even when the English handicapper gets hold of him, he'll probably bump him up to 131. So he needs to get up probably to at least maybe 136 or 7 to have a chance of getting a run in the final. But he was a massive eye catcher, and there's plenty more to come from him over that 3-mile trip. Unusually for the Hunter Chase division, there was put it mildly, a few quiet murmurings about burning ambition at Limerick. He's trained by a small trainer, Pierce Michael Power, who I wouldn't be aware of, but he was very impressive, albeit not the strongest looking sort of Hunter Chase, but he might be one to follow in that division going forward. In a maiden hurdle at Leopardstown, Canardier for Dermot McLaughlin was absolutely tanking through the race when he got Mullers turning in by the horse in front, cut across him and nearly unshipped Andrew Lynch. I think winning a maiden hurdle is a formality for him, and he could potentially get handicapped very favourably on the basis that he's been beaten twice now already. So he's one to follow for the next couple of runs. And the final one didn't even run at Christmas, but my Coney Island is definitely shortened up for the Gold Cup on the basis of what's happened over Christmas. And if you look at Annabelle Fly and Road to Respect, who won the 2 big races at Leopardstown, Coney Island put them in their place last year in the Drinmore. His form couldn't be working out any better, and I really believe this is year. I think there was a few Twitter murmurings, and I think there was an article as well saying that we were a bit mental going 10-1, but if anyone wants to lay me any bigger, I'd be more than willing to do business.
Well, Coney Island, Frank, we've said in the past how if he wins, you'll just be off to somewhere very, very hot, and we'll all be very jealous of you.
You'd be having more than vol-au-vents, put it up.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to a topic now that's going to make you smile, Ed, because we're going to talk about the Choral Welsh National. I know you've got a big anti-post fancy for this in doubles and all sorts. Frank, betting and a fancy for you in this race. It's been rescheduled, of course.
Yeah, just 1 second there. Beware the Bear, still 8-1 favourite. Chase the Spud, 9-1 along with Falls and Blue. As the Weatherman, 10-1 along with Mystery. And Rock the Casbah and Vintage Clouds. Bishop's Road, Final Lodge and Wild West Wind are 12-1. America and Milan's Bar, Cobbles Bay, Raspberry and Vicente are 16-1. Our 25-1 bar.
Okay, excellent. Frank, quickly, your selection for this one?
It was originally Mystery. I think Tom Scal put it up at price-wise the night before, and I see no reason to change. He loves the mud. He's great first time out. He'll stay all day. I'd be very disappointed if he didn't get round and finish in the first 4, but I think he has a great chance of winning. Okay, Mystery for Frank. Ed, you're going to love this. Take it away.
Well, I might do. I might not by the time the race is finished. No, Rock the Casbah, he's been one of my biggest fancies all year, really, and I've kind of put him in doubles and trebles and all sorts, and I mean, his form figures at Chepstow are electric, aren't they? Second, 1-1-1, his form at Chepstow. Loves soft ground, jumps, he stays. He's off a mark of 149. I think there's still mileage in that mark at this track on this ground. Richard Johnson, of course, would have been due to miss the ride on him after suffering his concussion. By all accounts, if he passes his concussion test, or however they exactly define it, he'll be back for the ride on Rock the Casbah, which is brilliant because he gets on so well with that horse. So 10-1, I mean, famous last words, but with a clear round, I don't see how he's out the 4, given his, he ticks every box you want. Possibly, you could argue he's slightly inexperienced compared to some of the others, but he's got a touch of class about him, and yeah, I'm really keen on Rock the Casbah's chances. Okay, Rock the Casbah for you. Nick? Yeah, I've got a little interesting one at 25-1, trained by Evan Williams. It's called On the Road. Now, the negative to his chances is that he might not make the cut. I think he was just a few off it last time, but hopefully this time he might sneak in at the bottom. He won 3 in a row over fences early last season, early months of last season. He come back, he ran a really good race over hurdles last time. Finished second by an horse called Sykes, who's since run a really good race behind Arthur's Gift at Cheltenham. So that was quite a good comeback run. He loves testing conditions. And I just, we're not all breeding buffs out there, but I just had a little check to see if he would stay the trip. And Earth Summit features very prominently in his breeding. If you go back a couple of generations, Earth Summit won 3 nationals, the Aintree National, he won the Welsh National, he won the Scottish National. Staying genes written all over him, so he could be a big improver over this marathon trip. If he sneaks in off the bottom, off a low weight, then at 25-1, I think he is on the road, could outrun his price.
Okay, I like the sound of that very much. That'll do for us today. We'll be back on Friday with another weekend tipping postcast and on Thursday with another football postcast. If you enjoy listening to these, please rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, and we'll see you soon.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week and get a £10 free bet the next week. Paddy Power, you beauty! Max £10 bonus per person per week. Excludes shop bets. Selected odds. Conditions and exclusions apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.